Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, listeners. It's me, Suleiman Ben Sware, coming on Facebook Live. Today is the 6th, Tuesday, the 6th of April, 2021. And the time is just about 10 minutes to 3 in the afternoon in Birmingham, England. Assalamu alaikum, mbokk yi, man la Suleiman Sware di ñëw on Facebook Live. Tey di Tuesday, the 6th of April 2021, waxtu bi dem na about 10 minutes to 3 si ngoon Birmingham, England. Mbokk yi ngeen jox ma 1 minute before ñu commencé waxtaan bi boo xam ne dina tënku si mbiri di trip boo xam ne moo waroon a am lu nekk si mbiri trip bi bu woon a am boo xam ne di président mu ngi woon a tukki dem Dubai waaye trip bi taxaw lu nekk si biir trip bi loolu lañ bëgg a waxtaan so leen ma may 1 minute ma share li suma page bi and ma copy other people and we'll get going. Just 1 minute ma ñëw def jekkali fii. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I said this is to discuss the trip born of Dubai and more cancel. And this would be one of the most important discussions we'll ever have, because you understand why these people were going to Dubai and what was going to happen in Dubai if they had gone to Dubai. And unfortunately, I cannot give certain details on the circumstances of Lanata Tribute Council. But I expect the politicians, I expect the opposition to ask this question: why the cancellation? Dina am lu ma si laal, but I cannot touch certain aspect in two reasons. Because buguma the government to understand the other role played to make sure this trip was cancelled. But I'll tell you, the Gambians actively work to make sure this trip was cancelled. And because of it's not into the interest of this the people. And the other thing to mind, we are waiting for government to give an excuse. Again, the government get an excuse that will give us a way to come up with a narrative, counter narrative, rather than exposing the other actors in this. But why is it important? There are two known components of this trip. Then I'll be more signing of license of the Gambia oil license for Gambia oil exploration, and to a guy called Frank Timis. We all heard about Frank Timis, who handle Monica, West Africa, Senegal, and other places, for deals and deals for the FIP. It only interests the big mutual benefit, my mom bopam, and the politicians that took part in this. But the country always lose out. This is a person they're trying to do a deal with. The other component is the port of Banjul. The port of Banjul, Lanyo Jema said how to get money out of it in order to put it in the hands of other people in Yohamne. They are not going to do it to our interests. And there's a third component, which I am not going to go in. And that third component, in fact, Moginata, this trip was cancelled. But as Sunyan Wahene, Adama Barrow is dealing with very unscrupulous people. You should understand what it means. They can cause this government into disrepute. Other agencies muna am something on our government. Gambia government is not trusted, and it's completely saddening. This is what we come out to be. The background of this trip, if everybody can remember, a few weeks ago I came out and exposed a gentleman called Ibrahim S. Kamara, a gentleman called Hamne Mugidikun Switzerland, Neka, a diaspora kui hustle. I'm an educational background, I'm a professional background into big business, into financing, into engineering or anything. He's just an ordinary citizen, hustle and so on. And this guy, 2016 elections passing, and he became prominent into the UDP arena. From there on, Mudem into Neka, close to Barrow, and obviously side with Barrow when UDP fell out with Barrow. And this guy had a company, Bunyo Oye Gum Farming and Machinery Limited. What those have to do with oil exploration? This company, in fact, have never or non-existence of any trading or anything. And this company, from the New Gisne, Monica, the intermediary between Gambia government and Frank Timis. But this guy is close to Frank Timis, close to Barrow, personally. I'm a bank expertise, I'm a bank experience, I'm a bank know-how, I'm a bank financial access, learn more protect whom represent Gambia government. When we have our ministry of petroleum and other Gambians, you are competent to do this. And we know it since we started to deal with Frank Timis, there's a lot of transactions that went through. To the extent of this gentleman now is in possession and to be seen as someone who something deprived wealth from it. But we will leave that for another day. And why this is important? This is the same way we saw Macky Sall. Before Macky Sall, we see Wada deal with Frank Timis. You always have someone intermediary to make the deal, to get things out from government. Abdoulaye Wade da def ko ak doomam. Macky Sall ñëw génne loolu jël ko def ko ak brother. That's where the Alioune Sall things came in, the problem is exploration in Senegal. And we all know the scandal. That Frank Timis, within a short period, that Frank Timis made $4 billion out of the license in Senegal. Frank Timis does not do exploration. Frank Timis lu moo def mooy speculation, mu jël little bit of capital, mu dem jënd corrupt the system to hold onto a license and try to make sure the license value na and mu get people and sell. That's what it does. Then mu jox wécci to politicians yi moom mu jël the bigger share. Frank Timis have a very disturbing background. He have been in cocaine and drug trafficking, heroin and everything. He have been in prison, and this is the kind of person that these people are dealing with. This thing and now it makes us wonder why our politicians are not talking about this. Why do we don't hear about oil exploration being talked about in the Gambia, in the media, in our in Parliament, our politicians talking about the future of oil exploration, our interest. Now these people are taking advantage. Then they went to they want to go. This when I expose this, these people have thought to the extent of going to sign an agreement, an MOU with Frank Timis. And it's a long story. I put it there. That's what they did. And Ibrahim Kamara, with his company called Gam Farming and missionary company, technically facilitated this. And in the presence of our Minister of Energy and Petroleum, Fafas Hanyan, and the other so-called technocrats. From there on, we never heard of it. I agitated this. I came out and agitated this. No politicians raise anything from this. Then, obviously, Barrow have the audacity to move on and to do whatever he wants. It comes out now. Finding about this present, how do we find out that Barrow was going to travel to Dubai on this before it was official? I keep saying this. When we talk about government, when we talk about the Barrow administration, when we talk about Gambians, we don't mean every Gambian of a born, we mean every person working in government of a born. No. We could not have known this if Gambians were not involved, who have concern, who have trust in us, have concern, look, this is going to happen. And since the Gambia government, we are creating more problems for ourselves. This thing has to be stopped. And they trust us and they share. But money, not every Gambian will ligate in the government or ligate with Barrow or anything, then born or get a flu. They do try and make sure that the system works. But they don't have the political power. To make the system work. The executive, executive power, see, the ministers and the politicians, they don't do that. And some of these technocrats are, honestly trying their thing. That's how we find out about it. I knew about this trip well before it became official, because Munglan Damsura. And I want to remind Gambians of one person here. Barrow, whenever he said he's going on a private trip, what does that mean? He's going to do something illegal. He's going to do something that he doesn't want accountability on. Because he makes sure there's no transparency in it. Barrow started this when he went to Congo. And the Congo thing will touch on it later. Barrow started this when he went to Congo. And it happened just before, just when he was sworn in. He went to Congo unofficial. But the thing is, there's nothing like an official function for the president, unless it's within his bedroom, with his family, or within his house with his family. That he does with his family. But with any other Gambian, it becomes official. Because everything for the president is paid for and taken care of by us. The house he's living, he closes where, he closes family wears, feeding them, their medical insurance, and everything is taken care of by us. Then he cannot have a private life in that sense, apart from the domestic life he has. But especially when he traveled out, We paid for the security. We paid for almost every other thing. Even if another company or other entity paid for something or state, they do it because of he's the president. They would not have done it if he was ordinary Barrow. They do it because of he's the president. Now, anything then is official. But Barrow and his people tend to want to use the word private office or private this thing. There's nothing like that. And even if the president is on holiday, the president is still active, the president. Whatever he does, however he conducts himself, it is on the office. Until he leaves that office, he should be all accountable for whatever he does. Let me just make that clear and take this private thing out of it. And we knew about this trip, and this trip, before it happened, the same Ibrahim S. Kamara, let me say Ibrahim S. Kamara, not the permanent secretary, traveled to Dubai. We got the information, he's already in Dubai as advance party. They're planning to go to Dubai. We left that out. We silenced because we were waiting and starting to work against it. Then, so all of a sudden, we start hearing that they are arranging the flights and every other thing. Then we knew it's going to happen because we don't want to come out and be giving inaccurate information. I agitated before it becomes official about 4 days or so, asking why is the president going to Dubai? What's he going to Dubai for? And who are the people he's going to Dubai with? Because I wanted this transparency to happen. I wanted to hold him accountable. This is what is supposed to be done. They left it till later. A few days, I heard about the advance party. And again, why? Gambians have to ask themselves this. Why a delegate, part of the president, were sent as advance party? Yes, the president have an advance party, but these are business people. These are business people. And the people name was Mohammed Jah, Idijob, Jigo, what's his name again? Sheikh Omar Jigo. These were the people name. Sheikh Omar Jigo is the business representative of Barrow. He represents Barrow interest financially in every deal in the country and outside the country, in Senegal and other places. And we all know who Mohammed Jah and Idijob are. Apparently, it's not clear what component they're going for. That's why I said there are other components part of this trip. But the main two components that really we talked about here, we're going to talk about here, is the port of Banjul and the oil exploration license. What they're going for, is it part of the port? We don't know. It might be something else, but they are part of the president's delegation. It's not clear. There's no transparency. But there's another thing that we don't know of, and I cannot talk about now because it's under investigation. There's another thing we know of that is illegal, and we highlight. I mean, we cannot highlight that now because it's in the hands of authorities and they're investigating that. That being the case, then I agitated that position again. Why are these people going as advance party? Why didn't they join the president? Why was not communicated? Because yes, if the president is going on an official visit, where that Gambians can have opportunity to interact, to have to bring in business or in investment, it should be announced, and we should know how are these people selected. What role did the Chamber of Commerce play? Are these selective people? Is there any other way? Because we want Gambians to be represented. Because we heard of one woman business person in the group. What about women being represented? Women businesses and all the things. And other businesses are not represented. How did they come about this? That's why the secret of this trip should be very important for every Gambian to follow through. I talked about the advanced party, business advanced party, and but the minute I started to agitate, some people in State House, yes, and my source, I tell you, it's not from State House. It's not from State House, but if they want to believe that it's from State House, let them believe that. Because I have no empathy or care about anybody's personal interest that works with Barrow. Because they are all the same. Let Barrow start, all of them, I don't care. But let me just say that. Then a disagreement came, started to happen within State House. And some people around Barrow start to realize that Barrow is hijacked from them. This is the Alkali contest. Alkali contest and others started to realize they are not in control anymore because they didn't know of this trip. They are not part of the list. And to the extent of some ministers, they are not even part of the list. They have to lobby and complain to be part of the list. Some were added to the list, and they had to travel to Dakar, to Dubai and as advanced party. Because already the flight was full by other people, actors. These are the people these were other people we are interested in, who are in dubious business to travel with the president. These people don't want to travel alone for obvious reasons. These people are using our sovereignty, Gambia, to do whatever they want to do. Now they want to be in the company of the president, in the flight that the president will travel, as a delegate of the president, so that they will get away with whatever they do. These people were there. Now, almost every government officers was sent. Other Gambian business people who were not part of that, were sent to go as advanced party. They left the source of the Gambia. I'm not going to talk about the costs implicated in arranging this. It's very important, and I'm just touching on it. There's a huge cost to the state on this trip, and they want to make us believe that it's a private trip. If you go on a private trip, why all these people? It becomes official. There's nothing like private trip anyway. But if it was even yourself going on medical, it's not private because we pay for your medical. You're going on holiday, it's not private because we pay for your holidays. Now, we all know then the word private was used because of, again, and I emphasize, we have Gambian politicians. We have the opposition. How can we dare leave this president to have the audacity to travel to tell us he's on private trip? We have Gambian intellectuals. They'll be silent and wait till everything fall apart, and they will blame ñu jàngut ñi ñu xamuñ ñi ñoom ñu jàng xam ñu ngi noppi. This is the problem we have. That's laziness of us accepting Barrow pour muy ñayab nit ñi dañuy wax ne private trip la moo dem with all this evidence we have. And this argument ends short, and now some people are blamed within the Naka. I'll get to that further down. The disagreement, and some people were added on the list, but the other people who wanted to be on the list are not put on the list because people want to go so that they can have a party. And the nature of this transaction, as I said, it's just like the Congo trip. It's just like Bissau. Remember, Barrow went to Bissau and said it was a private trip. It's the same people. Barrow went to Senegal and said it's a private trip. How come whenever Barrow traveled to this country is private? The only time he admits to travel official is when he go for conferences on the AU or EE, ECOWAS. Why do we accept this? This is where we have to explain where we are today. Where we are today. Barrow have been hijacked, and hijacked by very dangerous elements. And this is called a cartel. And a cartel operates in a different way and manner. And this cartel I will use the one thing they have in common. Dominantly, they are Muslim and they subscribe to an Islamic identity, but they are different nationals from mainly West Africa, but they have contacts in Eastern Africa and Southern Africa. Right now, this group are involved in the conflict in Nigeria. They are very powerful in there. They are involved in the conflict in Central African Republic. They are involved in the insurgency in Mozambique. We are investigating a particular Gambian who is actually one of the leaders of the insurgency in in Mozambique. And these people, most of them were involved in Congo, Brazzaville, Congo, Kings, in Angola, and other conflict areas. And as a cartel, they play different roles to the bottom of the pyramid. And bottom of the pyramid, they are using innocent Gambians from very less privileged backgrounds. They encourage them to leave their villages and everything with promises of employment and things. And these people will end up being indoctrinated based on their Islamic ideology, and they serve as mercenaries, or they end up serving as mercenaries as security. They operate in many areas. This is an unknown factor because of these conflicts are not covered as the conflict of Liberia was covered. When we suddenly find out how many Gambian mercenaries were involved. The reason we know that, because of it was the interest of the Gambia government and other ECOWAS state, because Kukoy Saman Sanyang was involved and his intentions of overthrowing our government. This was why we knew about this and the involvement of Libya. But this new conflict, people are not seeing it that way. And obviously from the top, you have people involved in diamonds, gold, and other mineral resources, contracts, mining, procurement, going down to other illicit once they have buying into drugs and everything else. That's why I said they are using an Islamist ideology, but they don't even believe in it. Because even within their operations, this Maraboutism mystics is part of it. Because they go and use this mysticism to buy in dictators, to make them believe, or in the invincibles and everything that they can contract out for them. They captured and how that's why they took Barrow to Congo and now they operate in Bissau and they are in control of Bissau. They are in contact with Macky Sall, have control with Macky Sall, and they were in control of Sierra Leone until Madabio came and overthrew, won that elections. And they are in contact in Liberia now with George Weah as well. This is the situation we have in the Gambia now. Our government is not run on anything, but on just, it's unfortunate, on just as Yajami did, but even the control Yajami had, because Yajami made sure he had control over things, but Barrow is controlled. He doesn't even understand the dynamics. And that's the problem. Barrow doesn't understand the dynamics of what is surrounding him. All he's saying is these people love me, they want me, and they bring money to me. He doesn't know the consequences of what he's doing. And to the contrary, to himself or anything, all he has seen is the greed for money. That's where we are. That's why we should take this seriously. And we look at the other things, we'll see it in there. We'll one day talk about this in depth. I just want to concentrate on this thing. Now, the other thing is the port of Banjul. The port of Banjul. That's why I'm saying I don't want to accuse any businessman having hands in it. It's not clear. But there are people investigating the involvement. Right now, they are trying to take the port of Banjul and give it out to a company. And there's speculations about Dubai War. Given out to a company that would manage the port for the country. There's a problem with this. That's a problem with this. Because of the way and manner it's been done, the incompetency of our representative, and the corruption that is to ensure that we are, if it happens, the Gambia will not have a good day. Yes, right now, our port is not run efficiently. It's not operating properly. It's causing a lot of trouble, and corruption is independent. But again, if we sign a contract for 50, 100 years, that means we lost piece of our sovereignty for 50, 100 years, and we might lose it forever. Because once we get into this, we might never get out of it. It's just as the oil exploration. Once we sign some of these contracts, we don't get out of it. But again, due to the incompetency of Barrow, we might have a way to get out of it. It might be very expensive, but we'll get out of it. But again, we don't want it to happen for Gambia to be spending that much money to get out of a contract, rather not get into a bad contract at all. And that can only be done if we Gambians are proactive, the opposition and Gambian intellectuals, to start to talk about this and to make sure we are effectively messaging this and show our approval to the way Barrow runs this country. Let's not be divided on any other line. We should be united for a purpose of defending the country. Political parties are part of institutions. They are part of going to elections is a part of a process to ensure that the country is governed right. Then that should not be a disagreement in a sense that we look the other way. Even those who, I cannot even say that, because there's no conscious person supporting Barrow, not knowing what Barrow is doing. I'm not talking about the people in the streets that I've been given some dollars and they support Barrow. I'm saying the people knowing, people who can read and write know that Barrow is not doing right. They don't care. These are the same people who were around the idea. They businessmen and other, they will look the other way, regardless of this. What's going to happen to the country, regardless of we're going to lose our sovereignty or anything. They disrupt that. They have their briberies, they have their business, and so on, and it's not sustainable. If this country is destabilized, they will not enjoy it. Their families will not enjoy it. But they are short-sighted. They don't look that far. They just look at their immediate profits. This Banjul port, with Dubai, with any entity, with the Dubai wall are speculated, as I said it's speculation, but it might be even a company, another company. And we have an advantage. Our position, let me just say this. The Gambia port is sought after by companies because Mali prefer to have bulk of their imports or to have some of their imports, and the bulk they want it to come through Gambia for two reasons. That's why we have to understand national security. For the national security of Mali, they don't want to rely on all their imports coming from one country, Senegal. I'll explain this one. Yeah, they have even some of their imports coming from Ghana. Why they don't want it to come from Senegal? Because Gambia is of a certain distance for them to get their stuff. But again, they have a boundary with Senegal, and they technically went to war with Senegal because of boundary disputes. Now, if they rely on Senegal for their imports of especially critical items, commodities, what about if Senegal uses that to pressure them to agree to other things down the line? They don't want that. Now, again, if they source their bulk of their items to a country that they have boundaries, that they have technically might be having problems in the future, how can that be sustainable? They rather spread their spread the risk and have another country, and that country would be the Gambia. We have an advantage. We have an advantage. That's why when I talked about the program of national security and infrastructure. We are building all these bridges around the country, thinking that we are developing, but we have never done a national security evaluation to all these bridges, what it does to our sovereignty. What it does to our sovereignty. The Farafenni bridge was built again against our sovereign interests because of the Farafenni bridge, Yulitanda Bambatenda, and so on. Gambia in the future, unless they dismantle the bridge or upgrade the bridge again with cost. Also, cruisers will not be able to get to Kaur. And we need to get to Kaur to have another dock there that we can penetrate the southern, the other parts of Senegal and to Mali quicker than any other country. This is of strategic interest, but because of we never consider these things, this is what is happening to us. Right now, we have an opportunity here, and we are not in control of this. When we go into contracts, and whoever it is, we should make sure that aspects of national security look into this contract for the short term, medium term, the long term. How is it going to affect us? Not only amount of money we have now from it, but how sustainable, how much it is going to cost us in the long run of our sovereignty and our interests. These are things that are not happening in the country at all. We just run and build roads and bridges. But we don't understand these roads and bridges are part of things that we consider in national security. National security is not about people in uniform alone. Those are even the low aspect of looking at national security. Those are people that act on contingency plans. National security is from the thinkers, people who think for how the country will be like in 50 to 100 years time. And this is one thing we are lacking in that country or in our consideration when it comes to development. This abandoned port, we should be very careful. And we should make sure, in fact, by now on, we should be proactive to make sure Barrow does not sign any major contracts on behalf of the Gambia. We are in an election year. We have 8 months to go. We have seen the incompetence of this government. It's our interest to stop this. If not, we run into problems. In the oil exploration, Frank Timis is not stupid. Why does he want to have a contract right now? I'll tell you, there is no major oil exploration that will happen in the foreseeable future because of the price of oil now is completely down because of the pandemic, and there are already enough platforms that are operating and pumping oil. There are over storage. Now, even they have a problem to store what they already pumped. Then it takes a long time for the demand to go up and prices to go up as well. Now, the people who are to invest, they rather go and invest in already viable things that will go into prospects that are not been tapped. Then, why is Frank Timis looking at this? Because of Frank Timis understands this business. He will corrupt Barrow and the people that matters in order to hold the license. Frank Timis knows that this is an election year, but it's worth taking the chance of investing a little bit of money in order to hold onto the license and make sure his underwriters would underwrite to make it very difficult for Gambia to get out of that. But again, Frank Timis believes that every African country or politician can be corrupted. He believes that there's a price for every one of us. That's why I always emphasize, make sure when we do this change, let it be a meaningful change. Just as when he did the deal with Wab, Macky Sall came, he got what he wanted for Macky Sall. That's why he's investing now. There's no sane company or investor that will take their money and put it into something now. I'm not saying that the Gambia license are not viable, but there is a way that it should go, but not people like Frank Timis. Another aspect of this is the announcement of a private trip and how it affected the monarchy in the Dubai, the rulers of Dubai. I cannot go deep into this as well because it's another component of why the cancellation happened. But again, that's why I said to Gambians, don't underestimate social media. Serious countries invest in technology. Serious countries invest in to monitor social media because that's I mean that's how important social media is. That's why they invest that much. That's so much I am going to say, but I'll tell you part of why this cancel is the way and manner. The press release was a lie, and most of it content was a lie because of they used they devised. What happened is they devised a relationship and used that to exploit that relationship for Barrow to go to Dubai because it was not an official engagement. There is no serious country right now that will accept that in the middle of pandemic you have almost the member delegation does know how big the list was. I cannot even tell you because the list keep on changing. You think any country would invite? That's why they went into small groups that much to come from Africa. But then for what reason? Now most of these deals and businesses are disclosed online, secured networks. The signing, if it's anything, would be done. Now that's why again we should think about this private trip. Why the president have to go? Because there's an element of signature. You need the head of state himself, and they want to tie it down to the head of state so that when the underwriters, because they have to convince their underwriters that the sovereign state agreed to it. And when they made this announcement, lie about it, this is how this government bring us into this review. Our sovereignty now can just go out and lie about anything. And Barrow is used to this now. You can lie to another African country, Congo, Bissau, Senegal, nothing come out of it. But Dubai have something to protect. Dubai have something to protect. And again, as I said, we can't get much into it, but I tell you, it's another component of why this trip was cancelled. The reason for the cancellation. Yeah, the reason for the cancellation and the issue that Barrow have personally with me. I don't like to say personally with me, but it's a fact. And I am assuring all those people that are worried about me, don't don't be worried. This is my area and expertise. There's nothing I can be scared of. If Yajame could not scare me off, Barrow and his people cannot scare me off. I have seen, I know, and yes, this is true. All of, or most of the things been speculated is true, but that does not scare me. Why are they angry? Barrow believe, or they make him believe, that I am associated with some people around him. I will never be associated with anybody close to someone like that. That's why they think because of I am associated people around him. That's why I was able to get this information because they could not understand the timeline, when I got the information and the few people that got that information. But the problem is Barrow doesn't understand how security works. Access to information and how do they classify that information? Is what restrictions, what mechanism do they have to restrict? Do they have a system built in so that this would stop leakages? Or if leakages happen, accountability can be ensured? No. Barrow himself is an information risk. Barrow's wife is an information risk. And the simple reason, and when we say this, let me just put it example very easy. People that just accidentally got something would not, they're not sophisticated to understand it. They have excitement in themselves. They want to show off. They don't understand how important or the mistake is because they don't know the implications. They don't know the implications. Now, if that is the case, Barrow himself, that's why the government cannot ever be secure information wise because of the entire system is based on incompetence and any say the mechanism you put there would not work. These people cannot wait to have an important conversation with Barrow and they transmit that information to someone they trust. Forgetting that, that's what I'm saying. They are not trained, they don't have a culture of dealing with, restricted information. You expect those people, they never dreamt of even working in State House as a gardener. Now, these people are in position of influencing the president, having discussion with the president, and they expect that leakages would not happen. And they think that myself, associated with anybody. Yes, Gambia is a small country. We are all interrelated. But does it mean I might even be from the same mother and father? Does it mean I compromise my integrity when it comes to doing things? Does it mean that I cut off people because of they are with Barrow? Yes, we have our relationship, that's it. But I will not interfere with, or we will not even discuss politics. I make that rule. To preserve my relationship, I will not discuss politics with you. If you, just decided to take that position, I leave you with your position because nobody moves me from this position. Then if they have their quarrel and everything, let them do. Yes, Barrow was really annoyed, frustrated, because to the last minute, the trip canceled. As I'm going to say why the trip canceled, I know what have transpired and the trip canceled. Now he believes that because I have a role to play. Yes, they know that I had a role to play. They don't know how much role I played in it to make the trip cancel, and now he want to find out. And he made a late call after the confirmation. They had to bring out a press release, and three of them on a call, Barrow, Shaw, and the other person on a call, and Barrow instructed Shaw and the other person to constitute, to do a secret investigation to find out who mass forces are. They did their investigation. Next day, they sent a, I think, two-page, make recommendations to point to that my source is part of the people who were disgruntled for not being added in the list. I don't even know most of those people, or any of them probably, on personal basis. I never talked to none of them. Now they said these people have a motive because they were left out. They're the one that gave me the information. But that's so stupid. Why am I emphasizing in this? It's not for benefit of Barrow, because he will never get it, but for the benefit of our Gambians to understand what sort of government we have in place. The stupidity of this government, the stupidity of our so-called intelligence, National Intelligence Agency. The timeline of when I came out and spoke, those people that were disgruntled, they didn't know about the trip. They only knew about the trip because I put it out. How did they give me the trip? And when I first agitated, they never reacted because they thought it's not true. Because they didn't know about it, because they thought they are important, they will know about it. Down the line, when I came about 2-3 days after and I spoke about the advanced trip, and they checked their sources and find out, yeah, it's happening. That's when they discovered one. Because of you don't have an information system in place to secure your information, one, you will never find out who or how it came out. Two, if you had the competent people to do an investigation, they would have looked at the timeline. Go to my Facebook, you see the timeline. And they would have checked it. Three, how did I know that you had a meeting? Three of you had a meeting. How did I know that? It's only three of you who were on the call. Did you think of how compromised your network is? And Gambia, if Ben Swari in England, a private individual citizen, can have means to find out information from a tree record, imagine what Senegal have on us. Imagine what other interest groups have on us. This is to remind Gambians where we are today. Gambia is digressing, and as it goes, we are losing our self-sovereignty. These informations are very important. If the networks, there's no network security in our state house, in our offices, that how do we have an advantage in negotiating other things? Our weaknesses, our strengths are known to our negotiators. How can you play a poker game when your cards is already revealed to your opponent? That's why we keep on losing. They don't care about anything. They know all we want is that money. Permanent secretaries and others that allow business people in the Gambia to pay their school fees, student school fees directly. We see members, head of parastatals, paying for tuition fees in Canada, in America, in England, for not one of their children or two or other siblings. Where do we think that money comes from? Because they understand how we operate and everything else compromised. That's why I said what happened and transpired, they will never find my source. And I am not scared of anything that they talked about or anything, and they can sack the whole entire state house. I don't care. I don't have empathy with them at all. The reason for the cancellation, I wait for Barrow to issue a statement. If Barrow issues a statement, I'll come against that statement. They will never. That's why I expect the parliament to invite this Minister of External Affairs, and you'll be surprised. If the Minister of External Affairs, Tangara, said that he doesn't know certain things, I'll tell you, believe it. Even Tangara was not completely in the loop. Tangara was additional, latter part into the loop. This is the country we have now. That nothing goes according to protocol. Barrow does whatever he wants with people that surrounds him. And the cartel, and I talked about this cartel and Islam, this Islamic kind of people. I don't like. I'd rather use the Islamic because this is one thing they have more in common, because they are all from different countries and they are all from different tribes. But one thing they have in common, that most of them are West African, and they are all Africans. This is like a new African. It's not even new. They've been out for quite a while, but they upgraded themselves. I want to just talk a little bit about this for Gambians to understand, because we will see the background of this. You know, for a long time, Africans, especially West Africans, have been serving as mercenaries to conflict zones. And the reason I knew is my background as military intelligence, and some um, circumstances that I was assigned to look at certain things or certain things out of my interest. Again, most of the things I do them because of I am passionate about it, and because my interest, I don't limit myself. I go into it to 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 educate myself, or find out. Some of these things were not actually relevant at that time to our national security needs. Some of them had some relevance. Gambians did serve as mercenaries in Bosnia, Herzegovina. Gambians have served mercenaries almost everywhere in the world. Gambians are serving as mercenaries right now in Yemen for the Saudis. People don't know that, because most of these people serving as mercenaries are from very unprivileged backgrounds. Just the one in Libya, we know about it now because of their force. But people that are of my generation will remember when, in fact, before Kukai ventured into Libya, Gambians were captured. Libya. Kuka was not the first Gambian to go and be a dissident in Libya. Gambians were volunteered. Gambians were captured and served in Libya. And this has been going on for God knows. But these people are from underprivileged backgrounds. They go in there, most of them would die. Nobody would know about it. They just know that their sons have left the shores to hustle the back way. This was the back way we have been forever. Most of these people have never even come through Banjul to go. Some of them would, in fact, continue to retire from national life and have a life in that country and cut off their families. I have, I've, I've met through my course of work in Liberia. I've met actually someone who was I cannot talk about his I cannot say his name, but I have to explain this for people to understand. He was not a mercenary, but this was a Gambian that his family thought he was normal. And I went to a place, a very remote place in the country, in Liberia. And as we were walking, a patrol team walking through, and we know of a Gambian that lives there, to check on him, a welfare check. And this guy was from Yomi. I've just forgotten the name. And we said nothing about how are you and stuff like that. He was sitting out there with another guy. And this guy looks like a Liberian. He was light skinned, looks like Liberian. But for one reason, I looked at him and I said to Mike about for whether this guy is a Gambian. And this guy said, yes, man. And when he said yes, man, miraculously, I call him his nickname because he was brought up. His uncle was living in in our locality, and he was older than me. Obviously, he was a friend to my brothers, and I call him by his nickname that he have never been called in Liberia. Nobody knows that. And he said, yes, man. I had a chat with him and even encouraged him to contact his family in the Gambia, and that's how he reunited with the family. That's an example. I've met Gambians who were mercenaries. There's this Gambian we call Gambian Party. Still now, nobody can tell you this Gambian's name because he refused to give us his name and identity. But he does ask weird questions about old Gambia, Gambian Papi. He has served Libya, he has served other places. Now he's retired, he's having fun and everything. He doesn't want the family to find out. I have met Gambian mercenaries, active, who actually are serving the Libyan army. These people end up living in Libya and having every identity. They never told us their name. But one reason they engaged me was when I said where I came from. These people served the field force. They left the Gambia before the 80s. They know about my family. They know about my house because my family had a shop, and they used to come in there to buy their provisions. It's that close to the barracks. The minute I said my surname and Bakau, they said, are you from Sanchaba? From here? But some of them, I can tell, they are from Christian background. Some of them, I can tell, they are from tribal, but I've never known their name. You see, this thing have been going on. But in recent years, they have taken some of our brothers and indoctrinate them and make them believe they are fighting for a jihad. No, they're used as mercenaries. And because some of them have fought in Angola and other things for other reasons. But now the new trend is they integrate to believe in jihad. And they are using them and other things are happening. And businessmen are using these networks. They buy into government, they buy into conflict and to supply drugs. Every conflict, it's sustained by something. Mineral resources and drugs, trafficking. They need the drugs to give the men courage to commit these atrocities. We have seen it in Liberia, in Sierra Leone. And the reason is, if you look at something here, since Barrow came into power, we have three major drug finds in the Gambia, and they all have one identity. Before, in the first republic, we know who were involved in drug trafficking: Gambians and Lebanese. In the second republic, we have seen Colombians and South Africans, Americans, Lebanese, and Gambians. Most of the case, we don't see the Gambians because they are just low-level facilitators. When we hear the fines, we just heard about the big guys. But right now, we had, apart from the Lebanese that the Lebanese cocaine they found from the Lebanese at the port, we heard about the hashish that came from Morocco. Gambia have never had issue with hashish. Hashish have never been imported into Gambia or to do on transit. Part of that investigation, you are not hearing anything from that investigation. The court case is not, I don't even think it's in the courts. There is no prominent person arrested. What we always see, they arrest the low-level Gambians, people that work in the warehouse or do other transactions. Now, one thing in that investigation that they are not telling you, there are Malians, and I think one of the vehicles got a Mali registration plate. They are taking the drugs from the Gambia, bringing it to the Gambia, taking it through land to Mali and to East Africa and Southern Africa. And the people involved in this all have French background. I mean, they are African, but they all have French backgrounds. And the same people, they are West Africans, and they connected to East Africans and these things. But what we know in the Gambia is only the West Africans. And when we see them and know their associates, they do with they are involved in different things. The cocaine, the 3 tons of cocaine we had of, the only person we hear is Banta Keita. It is Banta Keita. But Banta is not arrested. We know Banta was present in the Gambia. We know Banta was at the ports. And now Banta, and we know that Banta have a lawyer representing him who is Seou Tambir. But now they went and arrest Sirif Njai, a Gambian, low level, at the low level, and now he is involved in trade. He might never know how many people taking a trade do not know the content. Now he's the person being prosecuted. But I'll tell you, don't be surprised that case might just fizzle out, because already the judge is saying that he's going to throw the case because the prosecution is not proceeding, and because of the government doesn't have interest to prosecute this, because people involved are associated of Barrow, because the cartel is what is controlling Barrow. They are into different things. Some of the cartels are into drugs. Some of the cartels are into imports to do the money laundering. Others are into real estate. Others will be into mining. They are all, it's a cartel. It's a cartel. They play different roles and facilitate things. This, the drugs and what it does. And there's another company. We have now seen synthetic drugs. The amount. Before we used to hear Ross, limited amount. Now the amount of synthetic drugs in the country, because of it's imported for export to conflict areas. Conflict areas. Now they take this to the rebels, they exchange it with minerals, diamonds and all things, just as Liberia was and Sierra Leone was and others. That's why these people go mad and do what they do. They sniff the coke, they take the synthetic drugs. Now there are different types of synthetic drugs in the country because of this cartel. The violence you see in the youths, especially when they go out robbery, because they get addicted to the synthetic drugs. Now they want a fix, they have to get it. And once they go, they are aggressive, they take machetes and every day do anything. We have never seen this happen in the country. We have never seen this happen in the country because of the amount of drugs in that country. The police can fight crime as much as they want. But if the big criminals are not arrested or controlled, the crime will persist. To pick here and there is just the symptoms of crime we deal with. We have to deal with the root causes, and the root causes is Barrow being hijacked and controlling this. This is This is what is actually happening right now. Now that's why you see the source of Barrow wealth. The wealth, we all see the source, how much Barrow have now within 4 years. One is coming from this business contracts or procurement. We have seen the Banyan ports, Banyan road, and drainage. This thing, how much kickbacks? We have other seen other kickbacks. And now, if he goes for the Dubai port, if he goes to the Banyan port, it's another kickback, and other kickback. That's how he gets this money. The other thing is this drug cartels will give him money. They are not his friends. They give him money because they want access to him. They want access to our law enforcement. That's why we see, and I'll say this, the only reason Babakar Jawara and others are so much philanthropy on the police is because of this. They are buying out the police, law enforcement. They are buying them out. It's part of the cartel. Babakar Jawara might never take drugs, might never even see the drugs, but he belongs in a cartel. They play different roles. They play different roles, and they don't care. Some of them would be into mining, natural resources. Some would be into this, into that, and the drugs would come into part of the thing. And now they are using this Islamization things. That's why too, you see them building mosque or sponsoring mosque to be seen as good Muslims or whatever it is. And this is how we are now continuing to fuel violence into ourselves in our domestic environment, but again exporting mercenaries to other countries using Gambians, innocent Gambians, to turn them to be mercenaries and to be operating in other places. And we should be very careful. The implications of this into our national security, we already seen Babakar Jawar have his own private security that is not contracting to other to other businesses, and we don't even know who are recruited, how they recruited, what training do they have, who monitors this. Nobody will monitor this because people who are to monitor this are bought in. They will dictate the person to be an IG. They will dictate the person to be SIS. They will dictate everything else because they control the president himself. This is where we are today, and that's where I want to emphasize the issue about this Dubai thing was not interest to our country. That's why we went against it, and literally they were trying to sell our sovereignty. And the Gambians, we should be very serious about this, and we, the opposition, should be very serious about this. It's just mind-boggling that our opposition is not talking about the oil exploration, and people to understand. We have all seen the evidence, not speculation. I don't base my thing on speculation. Where I analyze things and have my view, I say this is my view. Where evidence are present, I say this is evidence, and my views would be logical. I'll explain why did I say this. Logically, I have to put something on it and explain that. And it have been seen to coming out through why we are not doing that. We have seen the issue about drug trafficking and the cattle, and you know the distortion in our economy. Gambians should have looked at this. Why do you think in the Gambia we have apartments been sold for £150,000, the same price in the UK? I'm not talking about London. London is very expensive, but I'm talking about the second cities, Birmingham, Manchester, £150,000. Who you think is spending that money? How many people? You think these people will invest this much money? And other things that's happening in the country, it's a distortion. Do we have a distorted economy? And now we wonder why prices are going up. And these are things that we have to be serious about. And probably tomorrow or day after tomorrow, not tomorrow I have an engagement. Day after tomorrow, I'll touch on the Omar Faye issue. But again, I'll talk on the death of the NPP. And because I told you guys that this party would never be a party, the death of the NPP. But the reason why we have to have a meaningful change because of all these revelations. That's why you see the aggressive move on Barrow going for the money, and they are planning their exit strategy. We have to be very very careful about what is happening here, guys. Thank you very much. As I said, this is the bit I wanted to share, and I can share. I cannot share the other bit of behind the scenes, but we wait for the government to come out. But I expect the politician to ask the question: why Barrow was going to Dubai? Why Barrow did not officially, make the announcement of the, the details to be transparent about the Dubai trip. The fact that Ibrahim Eskamara, who is still in Dubai, and this gum farming and machinery company, their involvement is out there, evidence out there. Why are they? The intermediary to look for, signing contract for the Gambia, and but with Frank Timis, we need clarity on this about the report. We have to talk about the port, and I'll talk about the price increase and the port and the other things on Thursday, inshallah. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you. Cheers.